Hey everybody, what's going on? Snowy Minotaur here. Welcome back to another video on the channel. And in this video, I'm going to be talking about a topic that's been brought up quite recently with the Fortnite community, and it actually has to do in regards with collaboration cosmetics. I've seen a lot of people really wanting certain collaboration cosmetics to return, and there is a situation that's happening that, well, a lot of them haven't returned in a good while, and I'm here to give off my own thoughts and opinions as of why these collaboration cosmetics haven't returned to the item shop. And believe it or not, it's actually a very simple just answer, believe it or not. So I wanted to talk about just a few examples here because these are some that I've seen brought up recently. So the first one I wanted to talk about here is Kratos. I've seen a lot of people really wanting the Kratos set. I actually made a video quite recently talking about the Kratos set in my personal opinion because I really want the set to return. Don't get me wrong, I'm with you all on this one. But the reason why this set has not returned to the item shop in a very long time is not because Epic doesn't want to bring them back, because I would imagine Epic would have brought them back very quickly if they were to have the rights to do that. And yes, it actually has to do with Sony. They need permission from Sony in order to bring back the cosmetics. So in this case, they need permission from like Santa Monica, who is the developers of God of War. This is probably the biggest reason as of why these cosmetics have not returned to the item shop in almost 700 days, which is just unfathomable to think about that. But yeah, it has to do with Sony. They have to do this with pretty much almost every collaboration. We've seen some return quite regularly into the item shop. Some of them just don't come back for a good while, and that's just because they need permission to bring them back. Like for the Kratos set, for example, the way they need to bring this back, and the only way they can bring this back, is if they got permission from Sony. But speaking of Sony, we gotta talk about another thing that actually happened recently with Sony, and that was with the recent Marvel shop. You might have noticed that there were 3 sets that were gone from the shop when it was introduced, when it was brought back quite recently. Well, I mean, one of them didn't have to do with Sony, which was obviously Black Widow, who I put in the thumbnail just for the memes, because at this point, I really feel like the reason why the skin hasn't returned in a good while is because Marvel's just thinks it's outdated. I wouldn't blame them if that was the actual reasoning, because we don't know the actual reason as of why Black Widow hasn't returned, but I'm kind of leaning towards that being there, so I don't know, to be perfectly honest here. But anyways, when it comes to Sony, there was 2 sets that were actually not seen in the shop. The first one is the Spider-Man No Way Home cosmetics. Technically, people are gonna say, oh, but they brought back like the Spider-Man Zero skin, so that can return. But here's the thing, they can bring back certain characters if they're not copyrighted, you know? Technically speaking, yes, that character is technically copyrighted to Marvel, but that's a Marvel-owned character that was made, you know, for Fortnite-related storyline purposes. When it comes to the Spider-Man No Way Home skin, like, you know, the Tom Holland version, that is a Sony-owned character, technically, so Sony has to give the green light to bring back those cosmetics. That's also the same reason as of why Eddie Brock hasn't returned to the item shop in a very long time. There is another theory going around as of why this set hasn't returned, but I will talk about that in another video, probably sooner than later. I think the reason why this hasn't returned is because this is a Sony character once again. Now you might bring up the point saying that they can bring back the original Venom skin, which yes, that is very true, but here's the thing, that is the comic book version of Venom. Marvel has the rights to the comic book version of that Venom skin. They don't have the full rights to use Venom himself, because obviously Sony owns the rights to some Spider-Man characters, and one of them happens to be Venom. And also, you gotta keep in mind here, the Eddie Brock skin was a collaboration skin and a promotional skin that was basically used to promote the Venom Let There Be Carnage movie that came out in 2021. And guess what? That movie was owned by Sony. So that's honestly the reason why those cosmetics haven't returned in almost 400 days. And that's a really big shame, because I know there's so many people who really were kind of disappointed that they didn't bring back the Spider-Man No Way Home stuff in the big Marvel shops that we've had quite recently, and also the Eddie Brock skin as well. But at the end of the day, here's the thing, they need permission from Sony to get those cosmetics put in the item shop again. That's the whole thing. Now, I know there's another cosmetic I want to talk about here, and that is the Travis Scott cosmetics. This one's kind of a big iffy here, because I do feel like the reason why this hasn't returned is most likely due to the Astro World fiasco that happened in 2021, but the skin had nothing to do with the entire situation that happened there. Don't get me wrong, it was really horrible that even happened, but the cosmetics had nothing to do with this, you know, with that whole fiasco and that whole controversy that came out in late 2021. I know people are gonna say that, oh, they removed the Out West emote from the shop though, but you gotta keep in mind here, Epic plans shops in advance. The only way that we can actually know on what cosmetics are going to be released into the item shop is when the tabs are actually leaked out about 2 hours before the shop even resets. And even at that, it's very loose, you know? Featured in daily tabs can pretty much feature, well, anything. They can literally put anything in the shop at any time. The only times that we can actually know when certain cosmetics are going to return is if they're collaboration cosmetics. The Astroworld cosmetics apparently were going to come back in 2021 as they were updated with a new item shop tab, and they removed it from the shop. My guess, it was probably because of Travis and his team not really wanting to go forward with that collaboration again and re-release the set. That's probably the main reason as of why that set has not returned, is because they just don't want to do it. Or in this case, they just don't want to have association with Travis anymore, but I do feel like it's going to come back sooner than later. And the reason why I'm pointing this out here is because it seems like Epic has definitely been on a roll when it comes to re-releasing, you know, controversial cosmetics, which had, quote, controversies to them, even though they weren't really controversial. The best way of me explaining this here has got to be like with Tidy, Rambunctious, those coming back. Yes, they were removed after 2 hours, but they were intentionally brought back to the item shop. They weren't mistakes, obviously. And even like the Plague Doctor skins, they intentionally brought them back to the item shop, and they were associated with the COVID pandemic. But at the end of the day, for anybody who was wanting any of these cosmetics that were mentioned in this video, you got to keep in mind here, they need permission to bring back the cosmetics. They can't just bring them back at any time. I do feel like that's a pretty big shame, but be patient, people. But let me know down below in the comment section what you think about the situation. Do you think that these cosmetics should return to the item shop sometime later this year, or just anytime? Let me know down below in the comment section. But anyways, thank you all so much for watching this video. If you did happen to enjoy it, consider subscribing to the channel, turn notification bell so I'm done with any more new videos from me, as I do upload weekly. Drop a like on the video if you did happen to enjoy this video. I also have a Twitter that is @SnowManator on Twitter if you want to go follow me. Thank you all so much for watching. I love every single one of you, and peace out, everyone.